Right, morning group C. Sorry about that. I just totally spaced out. Yeah, how are we? It has been some time. So a few little bits of admin before we start. What I've said I would do is teach training. Well, hang on. I'm recording this on Tuesday. You're getting this on Wednesday. So it's teacher training tomorrow, but it's teacher training today. But because we lost last Wednesday and that was 3 hours worth of content for me, what I'm going to do is I'm going to set you two videos today to have a watch through. And then a couple of bits of work. All right. So this does need to get done, and I'll flag that up via the stream as well. I put a message up for you last week about getting your assessments back. And what I said is that I record a video. I've kind of decided against that. So what we're going to do is for today, we're going to do this SRAS, LRAS, and productivity. I'm going to do a second video on macroeconomic equilibrium and set you some tasks to do. What we'll do next Wednesday, so that's going to be like the 25th, 26th, whatever that's going to be when I see you face to face. We'll go through your papers. We'll do a review of your papers. I did say you could come and get them off me last Friday. Only two of you did. So I've got your papers were marked long before, but they're just kind of sitting around in my office. I'm about on Thursday and Friday. I'm in college all day, both days. So if you do want to come and pick up those papers from me beforehand, feel free. Otherwise, I will bring them back to you on the... I'm just going to check my phone. Hang on. What date is it that I'm seeing you? It's the Wednesday the 25th. All right. So I'll bring them back for then and we can go through it. So this is video 1 of 2. What we're going to do is we're going to look back over SRAS, LRAS. We're going to look at productivity. What I would also ask you to do, quite a lot of you, from the most recent lesson, so it was a pre-recorded video on SRAS, LRAS. There's still some worksheets pending. So if you want to get those done as well, please, that would be much appreciated. All right. Now, I'm doing this video assuming that you know what SRAS and LRAS are. If you don't, please go back to the lesson on aggregate supply, rewatch that video because it goes through the different curve shapes. But what I'm going to talk to you about today is the UK productivity puzzle with regards to SRAS and LRAS, okay? So the first things to think about, when we spoke about aggregate supply, what we said is that only 3 kinds of things will change and shift aggregate supply, short-run aggregate supply, okay? And what we said it was kind of things that happen within organizations. So it could be an increase in wages or a decrease in wages, could be an increase or a decrease in tax, or it could be an increase or a decrease in prices of resources. So basically we're saying an increase or decrease in cost of production. But just to kind of flesh that out a little bit, what you would say is that even though these things happen within the organization, obviously costs of production are set by things that happen outside, so external factors, okay? So there's a few examples there. We could say world oil and gas prices. We're a net importer of oil, so obviously if the global price of oil goes up, that will force up firms' costs in the short term, and that will therefore shift short-run aggregate supply inwards. It would decrease it. Similarly, the price of energy, we're a net importer of coal, things like that. So if our firms use coal in their production processes, then yeah, that again is going to increase their costs of production and push SRAS inwards. And we could be here all day. Minerals, metals, rubber, iron ore, rare earths used in electronic products, if their prices go up, that increases cost of production. SRAS is going to be decreasing. You could also argue that for foodstuffs, international prices for fresh foods, coffee, wheat, cocoa, sugar, they're very volatile. So if they go up and down, that will also shift SRAS inwards or outwards, upwards or downwards, up or down, whatever you want to call it. And you could also say tariffs and quotas. You know, we're still a member of the EU. We leave in about 1 month and 10 days. So we trade with our European partners with no tax, okay? When we leave the European area, so to speak, the European Union, when we want to trade with Germany, when we want to trade with France, Portugal, Italy, they're going to tax us to do so because we're no longer part of that kind of elite group, all right? And as we pay tax for our goods, that is going to be increasing the cost for firms, okay? So those are the things that affect firms' costs of production, and we're kind of taking it away from just organisations, firms, and thinking about it at more of a global level, okay? Now, we're going to have a little look today at productivity, okay? Britain is in a bit of a productivity crisis, and this all comes down to SRAS and LRAS, okay? So productivity, by definition, is the measurement of the efficiency of the production process. So what we do is that we take our inputs, our land, labour, our capital, and our enterprise that we spoke about right at the start of the year, and then we add to that productivity and efficiency, how good our labour is, how well skilled they are, how well trained they are. This all comes down to long-run aggregate supply. We think about how technologically advanced our products are, our resources are, our machines are, how efficient they are. So if we take the factor inputs, we add a degree of efficiency, that equals our output. Okay. So in the long term, we would say that productivity is a major determinant of economic growth and of inflation, because if we as firms can produce more for less, that can keep prices stable or even push them downwards while increasing real national output. Similarly, if we use labour and they're not as productive, they're not as well skilled, not as well trained, a fall in labour productivity is going to lead to a rise in firms' costs of production, because they're going to be getting the same level of wage for actually doing less. So we're almost getting less for the same cost. If our firms can become more productive, this then lets them pay higher wages, but also increase their profits at the same time, because we are getting a hell of a lot more output for just a smaller increase in what's being paid. Okay, so we need to be productive, and this comes down to training, to skills, to education. In terms of capital, it comes down to getting more innovative technologies, green technologies, and simply machines that can run for longer and output more units, items, whatever you want to call it. Now, this was a survey that was done in 2015, and this was kind of what made growth for the UK economy. So we're talking about this productivity problem that Britain has, but let's look back in 2015, what was going on. And then we see projections from 2015 to 2018. Now, in theory, in Britain, in terms of percentage growths, in 2015, potential productivity output per hour grew by 1.4%. It then jumped in 2016 to 1.8%. But the slight problems that we're seeing is that the growth rate of productivity in 2017 slowed to 2.0 output per hour. And that's on average, that's on aggregate. And then in 2018, it slowed to 2.1. So what you can see is we've got a 0.4 increase between 15 and 16, a 0.2 increase between 16 and 17, but only a 0.1 increase between 17 and 18. So productivity is still increasing, but the gains in productivity are slowing. Also, what we're seeing, according to projections, and this is obviously pre-corona, pre-COVID-19, is that the average potential hours were decreasing due to flexible working, workers working from home, starting, as I'm doing today, workers working from home, and workers being more flexible, going part-time, things like that, rather than doing the 9 to 5 in the office. Some people might work only 2 days a week, something like that. We were actually losing hours, okay, so from 0, and then we go down by 0.1, 0.2, and 0.2. So maybe that's a reason why productivity isn't increasing by as much as it should be, because people are simply working less. Maybe 2015, 2018, and certainly now, I haven't got the most up-to-date figures, but certainly now, people maybe are reevaluating their lives. I can work from home, I can see my family more. And one of the key problems is that the potential employment rates seem to be going down because firms were being more flexible, because there was more part-time work. We went from 0 to down by 0.1, down by 0.1, down by 0.1, but that accumulates over the years. So we're losing 0.3 between 16 and 18. There's just less work opportunities. So productivity is decreasing relatively. We're working less time, and there's potentially less in terms of available jobs. And the issue that we've got, though, is that we've got population growth of zero point 0.6, then up by zero point 0.6, then up by zero point 0.6, then up by 0.5. So the population isn't slowing down, but there's less productivity, there's less hours being worked, and there's less opportunity to work. So if we think about the long term, if we were taking a baby being born in 2015, they're going to be 20 in 2035. Is there going to be that much work for them to be doing with flexible working, potential employment decreasing, and less productivity? Well, if you look at the final figure, overall potential output for the UK economy, we've got growth, but not great, 2.1, and then up to 2.2, 2.3, and then to 2.3. So growth for the economy is quite static. We do have somewhat of a productivity problem. I'm just going to swig some water. So we've got this productivity puzzle, and in Britain we've got something called a productivity gap. It's a term used to describe the fact that output per worker in the UK is well below that of many of our major international competing countries. Historically, our labour productivity has grown by about 2% per year, but since that financial crisis of 2008, it's stagnated. It has stayed really flat, as you've just seen, and the productivity gap has widened. Labour productivity, don't forget, is measured by GDP per hour worked and per worker, and growth in GDP per hour worked. But the statistics tell us that bottom bullet point, output per worker in the UK was 15.1% below the average for the rest of the great 7 advanced economies. So your America, your China, your Canada, I think Brazil, I think Japan, and European countries. This compares with 15.5% in 2015, so we're less productive even a year later. Output per worker in the UK is 15.4% below the average for the rest of the Great Seven in 2016. So how do we solve this problem? And this is all about LRAS. This is all about getting LRAS to shift out, getting more efficiency, getting more resources on stream. Here are our suggested solutions then. UK firms need to up their game in the use of research, development, adaptation of new cutting edge technology. And we're doing that in our kind of financial services, in our medicines, in our production. But is the solution to the productivity puzzle to keep on letting workers work from home, to allow us to do that, to let your city workers, rather than having to commute in a stressful commute on the central line full of people, they just work from home. But then what problems is that going to cause for the city as well? The second solution is that banks need to put more money to firms via loans to allow them to afford this new technology. If a firm is struggling, maybe it could come out of this struggle by becoming more innovative, but it needs the money to do that. And similarly, firms need to be able to free up their budgets rather than paying bonuses, etc., to spend on research and development for this new innovative technology. We've got skill shortages in key industries, certainly in production, certainly in technology, certainly in green energy. We've got skill shortages. We need better apprenticeship models. We need more flexible approaches to education and training to fit in around people's lives. Somewhere like Birkbeck College in London is brilliant at this. You can't do a degree there from 9 to 5 or 9 to 4. If you go to Birkbeck, you go to work, and then you do your degree, your master's, whatever, around your work. So you're getting job-based skills plus education. Stuff like the Open University as well. And even our kind of secondary education system, a lot of these technological academies, a lot of these specialist academies for work in the media industry, stuff like that. So you get your GCSEs and your A-levels, but you get proper training in using media packages, in using media hardware, to then go into, say, the TV industry or the music industry, okay? We should be increasing competition by firms across the economy, breaking down the huge multinationals that dominate our economy. But that's an impossibility, especially given coronavirus. It's killing our fragile economy even more. And what we've got is a high spare capacity of young people with degrees in debt with student finance and little chance of highly skilled positions. Do we bring about job creation? Can we create jobs? If, going back 2 slides to that productivity data, is there need to create more jobs? I don't know. So if those solutions were put into place and all other things being equal, we got our labour to be more productive, well, here is in theory what should happen. We should see lower levels of inflation, unit costs would be dropping, we'd be more productive, more efficient, we get more for less. We should see economic growth, okay, gains in LRAS, gains in SRAS. There should be lower unemployment because there will be more jobs. We should be able to sort out our balance of payments because if we're producing for cheaper, more for less, our exports become more competitive. We should gain from this kind of spare capacity, getting these students with their degrees and their debt into meaningful jobs rather than doing shop work like some of them are doing. There should be more investment. If we have more profit, there should be more investment. And the government debt hopefully will go down because there's less need to spend as a government on unemployment benefits if we get our people working. Okay. I've already said this to you on the previous PowerPoint on long run aggregate supply. We need productivity to come in. We need unemployed people working. We need more innovation and enterprise, and we need more capital investment. It is as simple as that. So, just to kind of finish things off, sorry, my phone is going a bit mad. Which LRAS curve should you use? It does depend. What I would say to you is the Keynesian model, the upward bending model, is more realistic in its approach. Okay, the classical model, that straight vertical curve, says we're always at full capacity. That doesn't really work, I would suggest. Okay, so what I want you to do, take a look at this and have a little think to yourself for each of the following examples. What would this do to long run aggregate supply? Will it increase or decrease LRAS? Okay, and then simply I want you to complete, where is my worksheet? It's going to be this. I'll put it into the drive for you. And yeah, simple as that. Okay, so I'm just going to deal with my phone. So I'm going to sign off for now, and then I'm going to record another video on equilibrium. All right, I'll put us all up to classroom in about half an hour's time. Thank you.